how much do we really know about Brazil? Beyond the headlines, beyond Rio's carnival or the big beaches. Because honestly, I think you might be surprised by just how incredibly diverse this huge country is, region by region.
Oh, absolutely. It's a mosaic.
And that's exactly where we're heading today in this deep dive.
Sounds great.
So we're basically taking a trip into three really distinct Brazilian states: Maranhão, Paraíba, and Santa Catarina.
Three very different places.
Exactly. We've pulled together a whole stack of research notes, articles, cultural docs. And the goal is to pull out the key insights for you, like a shortcut,
Yeah, cut through the noise.
Right, to understand the unique culture, history, geography of each place. So you walk away really informed, maybe with some surprising facts.
And a better feel for Brazil's complexity.
Exactly, without it being overwhelming. So let's dive in.
Let's do it.
Okay, we're kicking things off way up north in Maranhão. It's got this intriguing nickname, the Brazilian Jamaica of the Northeast.
Yeah, that one always catches people's attention.
And what really jumps out at you right away is this deep mix of cultures. You've got indigenous heritage, Tupinambá, Tremembé, others.
It's foundational.
Then layered with African and Portuguese influences.
Yeah.
And it's not just history, is it? You see it everywhere.
No, it's alive. It's in the festivals, the dance, the food, folklore, even the buildings. That colonial architecture in San Luis, for instance.
So tell us a bit more about how those historical layers actually formed this specific mix. It sounds unique.
It really is. So Maranhão, originally home to various indigenous groups, right? But European colonization, it had a twist there.
Oh.
Yeah. Unlike other places, get this, in 1612, the French actually founded equinoctial France, right there in San Luis.
Wow, French. I didn't know that. Equinoctial France.
Yeah, sounds quite grand, doesn't it? But it didn't last long. Portugal kicked them out by 1615.
Okay.
Then the Dutch gave it a shite, invaded in 1641.
Another claimant.
But they were pushed out, too, by 1644. So lots of fighting over it early on.
So a real point of contention.
Definitely. Then things settled a bit. By 1774, Maranhão was administratively separate from Pará, and its economy really took off: sugar, rice, cotton, spices.
You can really see how all that back and forth, those different influences, must have just seeped into the culture.
Exactly. It wasn't just a passing thing. It left a real mark.
So that turbulent history, the different colonial powers, the mix of people, it didn't just shape the buildings. It really, explodes in their traditions, right?
Oh, absolutely. It bursts forth. That's a good way to put it.
So what's a prime example? Something that really shows that layering.
Well, you absolutely have to talk about Bomba Me Boi do Maranhão.
Okay.
It's this amazing folkloric performance, a kind of dance drama. It's all centered around the story of an ox that dies and is resurrected.
An ox. Interesting.
Yeah, and its roots go deep back to the 18th century, enslaved communities, rural areas. It's a whole spectacle music, incredible masks, storytelling that's often satirical, and just loaded with symbolism. It's powerful.
Sounds incredible.
And then there's Tambor de Crioula, another really strong tradition.
Tell me about that.
It's an Afro-Brazilian drum dance, often led by women, especially in San Luis. It honors sacred rhythms, their heritage. You see it in the vibrant clothes. You hear it in the percussion.
Wow. These aren't just like tourist shows then.
Not at all. They're living history, living culture.
It really sounds like San Luis has its own unique heartbeat. Which brings us to that music scene. Brazilian Jamaica, the reggae capital. What's the story there? Why reggae?
It's fascinating, isn't it? Reggae didn't just become popular there. San Luis embraced it really intensely, starting around the 1980s.
But why there? Specifically?
Well, the thinking is that the themes in reggae, identity, struggle, community, social justice, they just resonated deeply.
Oh, okay.
Deeply with the local Afro-Brazilian population, with the indigenous heritage too. It wasn't just importing a style. It found fertile ground there, a really organic connection.
So it's more than just music.
Absolutely. That's why you find live reggae everywhere in local bars. It's part of the city's soul.
Gotcha.
And of course, beyond reggae, you still have the traditional sounds, that Bomba Me Boi music, very percussive folk songs.
Right.
And the chants and drums of Tambor de Crioula, they're all vital parts of Maranhão's soundscape.
Okay, so from those amazing sounds, let's talk about the taste of Maranhão. Because the food, I imagine, also tells that story of cultural fusion.
Oh, definitely. The cuisine is just as unique.
What's the one dish you absolutely have to try? The signature thing?
That would have to be arroz de cuxa.
Arroz de cuxa.
Okay.
It's rice cooked with dried shrimp, they call it goad locally.
Mm-hmm.
And it's seasoned with sesame, vinegar, some native herbs, and the key ingredient, jambu.
Jambu. What's that?
It's this local herb, and it gives your mouth this really unique tingling sensation, almost like a mild electric buzz, but pleasant.
Whoa, okay. That sounds wild.
It's something else.
Okay.
And beyond that, you've got other great local dishes like a prawn pie or manisoba.
Yeah, it's made from manioc leaves, but they have to be cooked for days, literally, to remove toxins. It's a real slow food tradition.
Wow, dedication.
And you cannot leave Maranhão without trying Guaraná Jesus.
Guaraná Jesus. The pink soda.
That's the one. Bright pink, super sweet, kind of bubblegum fruity flavor. It's iconic there. Absolutely beloved.
A pink soda called Guaraná Jesus.
I
Okay,
know.
adding that to the list. And the clothing, does it reflect that same vibrancy? Especially the festival stuff.
Oh, the festival costumes are incredible. For Boma Mi Boy, you see these super colorful folkloric outfits.
Right.
Masks embroidered to look like oxen, bright skirts, straw hats, all these elements reflecting the indigenous African colonial blend we talked about.
And just everyday wear in San Luis.
Very much reflects the place. Casual, coastal, tropical. Think lightweight fabrics, bright colors, comfortable, relaxed. Matches that easygoing vibe.
Now, let's shift to the landscape itself. Maranhão's nature. We all know the Lençóis Maranhenses, those incredible dunes and lagoons.
Breathtaking, aren't they? Truly unique.
But what else defines the natural environment there?
It's actually incredibly diverse. Beyond the Lençóis, you've got mangroves along the coast, winding rivers, dense tropical forests further inland, and these high, flat-topped plateaus called chapadas. So a real variety of ecosystems.
And are there unique connections between the people and this specific environment?
Yes, definitely. One really remarkable example is the Quebraderas de Cocobabaçu.
The what?
Quebraderas de Cocobabaçu. They're women, mostly in Quilombola communities.
Quilombola. Those are communities founded by descendants of escaped slaves, right?
Exactly. And these women have this traditional practice of harvesting and breaking open babasu coconuts. It's not just a job, it's deeply tied to their identity, their culture, and their fight for land rights. It's really powerful.
Wow, that's amazing.
And you also have indigenous groups like the Akara Gamela who are actively working to recover and maintain their traditions, like performing the Bilibé raise, these cultural rituals that connect them to their ancestors and the land.
That connection between land, history, and people. How does that show up in the landmarks, the built environment?
Well, San Luis itself is the prime example. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, recognized back in '97.
Right.
And it's because its historic center is so incredibly well preserved. All that Portuguese colonial architecture, the beautiful azulejo tiles, those classic blue and white tiles you see.
Oh, yeah, I know the ones.
Intricate wrought iron balconies, and these distinctive raised houses built smartly for the tropical climate. It's like stepping back in time.
And outside San Luis.
Well, there's Lençóis Maranhenses National Park, obviously, a must-see. Then there's Alcântara.
Alcântara.
Yeah, it has these fascinating colonial ruins, old churches like the São Matthias Church from 1648. But kind of intriguingly, it's also right near Brazil's main space launch center.
History and the future, side by side.
Kind of, yeah. And you have the Parnaíba River Delta, the only open sea delta in the Americas, shared with the next state over, Piauí. Great for wildlife tours, mangroves, islands.
So beautiful.
And for hiking and nature, Chapada das Mesas National Park has stunning waterfalls, cliffs, trails, like the Poço Azul, these amazing blue pools, just gorgeous landscapes.
Okay, and wrapping up Maranhão, language and identity.
Mm-hmm.
People from there are called Maranhenses.
That's right, Maranhenses. And they speak Portuguese with a very distinct northeastern accent.
What else stands out linguistically?
What's really interesting is how many indigenous place names and terms are still totally common. Words from Tupinamba, Tremembe languages, they're just part of everyday speech.
Wow.
And locals have real pride in their place. San Luis gets called the Island of Love, or, of course, the reggae capital. And you'll hear common expressions like oxente, it's kind of like whoa, or gosh, and arretado, which means something is really good, awesome, fantastic.
Ausente, arretado. Got it. Okay, what a fascinating picture of Maranhão. Let's shift gears now. We're heading a bit south, but still in the northeast, to Paraíba.
Right, Paraíba.
Often called the Sun Gate of the Northeast. Now, like Maranhão, it's got a cultural blend, but it sounds like a different recipe, maybe.
Yeah, definitely its own flavor. Here, you still have the Portuguese colonial heritage, strong Afro-Brazilian influences, but maybe a more pronounced coastal indigenous root, especially from the Potiguara people.
So how does its history compare-contrast with Maranos?
Well, similar starting point, initially home to indigenous peoples like the Putuquara, Kiri, Arias. Portuguese claimed it around 1500.
Okay.
But unlike Maranhão, where the French got a foothold for a bit, Portuguese settlement in Paraíba really ramped up earlier in the 1530s, and a big reason was specifically to push back against French influence in that area more effectively.
Ah, so a more direct, sustained Portuguese effort from early on.
Seems that way, and over time, that mix of influences, Potiguara, Portuguese, African, created Paraíba's specific cultural identity.
And the identity really comes alive in their festivals, right? I hear Festa Junina is massive there.
Oh, Festa Junina, the June festivals, they're huge all over the Northeast. And Paraíba is no exception. It's celebrated statewide.
What's it like?
It's incredibly vibrant. You've got the quadrilla dances, these sort of choreographed square dances, but with a Brazilian flair. Big bonfires, tons of traditional food, especially corn-based dishes like corn cakes.
Yep.
And people dress up in traditional, sort of rural-style clothing. It's a celebration of the harvest of saints like St. John. Really joyful.
And are there other more local festivals too?
Yeah, definitely. Smaller towns have their own traditions, like Festa do Rosario, honoring Our Lady of the Rosary. And in Pombal, they have something called Pombal Fest.
Pombal Fest.
Yeah, get this. It's like a mini carnival, but held in July.
A July carnival. That's different.
A unique local twist shows how these traditions evolve.
Okay, and the music in Paraíba? Maybe not as internationally known as Maranhão's reggae, but what's the local sound?
The heart of it is really regional rhythms. You'll hear a lot of forró, especially the more traditional acoustic style called forró pé de serra.
Right, accordion triangle.
Exactly. And also rhythms like haxado and coco. These are song and dance forms that really tell local stories, reflect the rhythm of life there. And you can definitely hear influences from capoeira music and broader Afro-Northeast sounds in the percussion, in the melodies, especially at festivals. It's the music of community.
And shifting to the food again, what defines Paraiban cooking? What are the key flavors?
Paraiban food is often described as hearty, flavorful, really makes the most of local ingredients. A classic is carne de sol.
Carne sol, sun-dried beef.
Sort of, yeah. It's salted beef, traditionally dried in the sun, though now often cured differently. Very flavorful. Often served with macaxeira.
Which is cassava.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Often fried into delicious fritters. Another staple is munguza.
Munguza.
It's a kind of porridge, usually made with hominy corn. Can be sweet or savory. Very comforting.
Sounds good. Anything unique on the sweet side?
Oh, you have to try cartola.
Cartola, like
Yeah.
top hat.
Haha. Yeah, maybe the shape. It's basically fried plantain, topped with melted cheese, usually a mild white cheese, and then sprinkled with cinnamon.
Fried plantain with cheese
I
and cinnamon.
know, it sounds a bit strange, but trust me, it works. It's delicious and super popular.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
And tapioca crepes are everywhere too. Super versatile, filled with coconut cheese, butter, carne de sol, you name it. Really showcases that mix of indigenous, African, and Portuguese influences in a simple, tasty way.
And the festival clothes. You mentioned the Festa Junina look.
Right, for Festa Junina, it's that specific caipira or rural look. Think patched dresses, straw hats, maybe painted on freckles or missing teeth, all playful. For other general festivals, women often wear bright long skirts, maybe lace blouses, very colorful. Men might wear straw hats, checked shirts, bandanas. It's got a sort of charming, rustic, festive feel.
Okay. Now, the landscape in Paraíba, how does it differ from Maranhão?
It's quite different. Further inland, you get the Borborema Plateau. The dominant vegetation there is caatinga.
Caatinga. That's the semi-arid biome, right? Cacti, thorny shrubs.
Exactly. Very adapted to drier conditions. Hardy plants. Then along the coast, it's different. You have mangroves, seagrasses, and important fisheries.
And the wildlife.
Well, along the coast, you might see sea turtles nesting. Lots of coastal birds. Inland, maybe toucans, capybaras near water sources. It's adapted to those specific environments.
And the people. Paraibanos. The capital, João Pessoa, has that cool nickname, Sungate.
Right, because it's the easternmost city in the Americas. First place, the sun hits the continent each day.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah. It's also called Green City for its parks and trees. And it has this Latin motto, Intrepida ab origine.
Which means?
Fearless from the beginning. Speaks to a sense of resilience, maybe.
Interesting. And are there other important towns?
Yeah, towns like Pombal are historically significant too. It's one of the oldest towns in Paraíba, so it has historic churches, old squares, and its own cultural events tied to that long history, like that Pombal Fest we mentioned.
And João Pessoa itself, any specific landmarks to look out for?
Oh, yeah. Besides the famous beaches like Tambaú and Cabo Branco,
Mhm.
there's the Cabo Branco Lighthouse, marking that easternmost point. There's also a really striking modern building, the Estación Ciencia, designed by Oscar Niemeyer.
Ah, the famous architect.
That's him. And for history buffs, the San Francisco Cultural Center is this beautiful colonial-era complex. Plus, just wandering the historic downtown is great.
Okay. And linguistically, we know it's Brazilian Portuguese.
Yeah.
Anything specific to Paraíba? Besides the accent, you mentioned a caution earlier.
Right. So like Maranhão, you'll find Tupinamba place names and some local expressions mixed in. But yeah, the important caution is about the phrase muito Paraíba.
Right.
It can be used as a kind of prejudice dig, meaning someone is like provincial, naive, or unsophisticated. It's definitely derogatory, so something to be aware of and avoid using.
Good to know.
But otherwise, you'll hear plenty of standard Brazilian informal chat like "Cê beleza" for "you good," or bagulho, meaning thing or stuff, common slang.
Okay, got it. Wow, Paraíba sounds like another distinct world. Let's travel again, this time way down south to Santa Catarina.
Big jump south.
Yeah, and here the story seems to be much more about European flavors, right? A different kind of cultural tapestry.
Absolutely. Santa Catarina's identity is heavily shaped by later waves of immigration. You still have the foundational Azorean Portuguese element from the 17th century.
Azorean, so from the islands.
Exactly. But then, starting mainly in the 19th century, you get significant waves of German, Italian, Polish, Ukrainian immigrants settling there alongside the indigenous groups already present.
So a real mix, but with a strong European overlay.
Definitely. You see it across the state, from
Right.
coastal towns to the mountain valleys. And the state's name itself, Santa Catarina, is after St. Catherine of Alexandria.
And those European roots really show up in the festivals, I hear, particularly one very famous one.
Oh, you have to mean Oktoberfest in Blumenau.
That's the one.
It's legendary. Seriously, it's the second biggest Oktoberfest in the world after Munich's. 18 days of German music, traditional clothing, parades, food, and of course, lots and lots of beer. It's a massive event.
Sounds like quite the party. But it's not just German influence, right?
No, not at all. You have Marihada in Itajaí, for example.
Arihada.
Yeah, it's a big seafood and fishing festival. This one honors the state's Portuguese heritage, lots of traditional dance, amazing seafood, shrimp, oysters, and beer too, of course.
Okay, Portuguese heritage covered too. Anything else major?
Well, for dance lovers, there's the Joinville Dance Festival. It happens in July.
Joinville.
Yeah, and get this, it's considered the largest dance festival in the world by participant number.
The largest in Brazil.
In the world. And Joinville is also famously home to the only branch of the Bolshoi Ballet School outside of Russia.
The Bolshoi in Santa Catarina.
Right there in Joinville. It's a huge deal for the dance world.
That's incredible. The cultural mix is just...
Yeah.
Wow. Does the music reflect that diversity too?
It really does. You have a regional folk style, sometimes called musica catarinense. It's generally upbeat, and it blends those European influences with Brazilian rhythms and other folk sounds. Often features the cavaquinho.
A little guitar-like instrument.
That's it. And the songs often tell stories.
Nice.
Santa Catarina also shares in the broader Gaúcho folk music tradition that's popular across southern Brazil. So you'll hear things like chamamé and vaneira lively, accordion-driven dance music.
So folk traditions are strong. Anything more contemporary?
Oh, yeah. From Florianopolis, the capital, there's a really iconic band called Das Aranha.
Das Aranha.
Yeah, they've been around since the 90s. They play this cool mix of reggae rock, alternative rock, but they uniquely blend in violin with Brazilian rhythms. Very distinctive sound.
Violin and reggae rock. Interesting.
Yeah. And there's an emerging scene, too. Local bands like Noah's Torvilim, Venus versus Marte, keeping things fresh.
Okay, onto the food. Santa Catarina sounds like seafood heaven, but with those European roots, too. What are the highlights?
Seafood is definitely big, especially along the coast. Florianopolis is particularly famous for its oysters.
Oysters.
Yeah, they're known for being really creamy, briny. Some say the cold ocean currents there give them a superior quality. They're highly sought after.
Oyster paradise. Got it.
But then you absolutely taste the European heritage in the colonial fare. Think homemade cheeses, traditional German or Italian-style sausages, local wines, sweet fruit jellies, and preserves reflects those Azorean and German roots.
Comfort food with history.
Exactly. And of course, it's still Brazil, so you get fusions like fish stewed with coconut milk, maybe some palm oil, cilantro, served with a mint vinaigrette, maybe a caipirinha on the side. That blend is always there.
That's delicious. And the festival attire. Lederhosen at Oktoberfest.
You'll definitely see plenty of lederhosen and dirndls in Blumenau. It's all part of the fun.
Right.
At other folk festivals, you'll see specific regional dresses for the dancers, showcasing local traditions. And at Marahada, you might even see some fishermen's traditional outfits, connecting back to that maritime theme. It's very visual.
Now, the nature in Santa Catarina. It's part of the Atlantic forest, right? That sounds important.
Hugely important. The Atlantic forest is one of the world's biodiversity hotspots, even though much of it has been lost. Santa Catarina has significant remnants.
What kind of ecosystems?
You get mixed forests, including the distinctive Araucaria pines, those tall umbrella-shaped pines, also upland grasslands. The biodiversity is just staggering.
Like what?
Well, records show over 2,300 plant species, something like 600 types of birds, 150 mammals, 140 amphibians. It's incredibly rich.
Wow. Any standout wildlife experiences?
One really special thing is the southern right whales.
Whales.
Yeah, they come to the coast of Santa Catarina, usually in winter and spring, to breed and calve. You can actually see them from shore in some places. It's amazing.
Incredible.
And then there's that unique human-dolphin fishing partnership in Laguna.
Ah, yes, you mentioned that. Fishermen and dolphins working together.
Exactly. It's been happening since the 19th century. The local bottlenose dolphins actually help herd schools of mullet towards the fishermen's nets, and both benefit. It's a really rare, fascinating example of cooperation between humans and wild animals.
That is absolutely mind-blowing. What about the people? Catarinenses, right? Any nicknames?
Yep, Catarinenses, or sometimes you hear the nickname Barriga Verde.
Barriga Verde. Green belly.
Haha, yeah. The origins are debated, maybe something about military uniforms, or maybe just the lush green landscape that's used affectionately.
Okay. Any famous figures from there?
Well, Laguna, the town with the dolphin fishing, is also the birthplace of Anita Garibaldi.
Anita Garibaldi.
Yeah.
Related to the Italian Revolutionary.
His wife and comrade in arms, she was a Brazilian revolutionary herself, a real icon of courage and independence, a fascinating historical figure.
Wow. And the capital, Florianopolis or Floripa.
Yeah.
Sounds like a hotspot.
It really is. Known as the Magic Island, technically it's mostly on an island. It draws surfers, lots of tourists, digital nomads. It's famous for its 42 beaches, but also has a growing tech industry and is known for a high quality of life. Very popular place.
So besides Floripa, what are the other key cities or landmarks?
Well, Blumenau, obviously, with its German heritage and Oktoberfest. Joinville, the city of dance, also known for flowers and bicycles, home to that Bolshoi school.
Right.
And in terms of natural landmarks, the Serra de Rio de Rastro is famous. It's this incredibly winding mountain road with spectacular views.
Pictures of that looks intense.
It is. There's also great hiking around Irubici, the impressive Yucumam Falls, and stunning canyon landscapes in the Aparados da Serra National Park, which it shares with Rio Grande do Sul. Just amazing geology.
And finally, language in Santa Catarina. It sounds like more than just Portuguese is spoken there.
Oh, definitely. Because of that immigration history, you still have communities speaking other languages. Italian, which is a dialect of Venetian Italian, is recognized.
Wow.
You'll also hear German, both High German and Low German, or Pomeranian, especially near towns like Pomerode, which prides itself on its Pomeranian heritage.
So German and Italian dialects are still alive?
Yes, in certain areas, passed down through generations. And there are still indigenous languages spoken too, like Kumgang, Biaguarani, and Xukling.
A real linguistic patchwork.
It really is. You even get regional blends, like Portuñol near the border with Argentina, or Catarinensis, which is a name sometimes given to the German dialect spoken there.
Fascinating. Any common local sayings?
A popular one you hear that expresses local pride is Santa Catarina é abençoada.
Meaning?
Santa Catarina is blessed, shows a real love for the state, its beauty, its quality of life.
Wow. Okay. What an incredible trip through 3 very different parts of Brazil.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that detail about equinoctial France in Marielle.
Right. Changes the picture a bit.
It totally does.
Right.
It just hammers home how these different histories, French and Dutch attempts up north versus sustained German and Italian immigration down south, created such radically different cultures. The food, the music, the festivals.
Yeah.
Completely distinct vibes.
Exactly. And that's really the so what, isn't it? Understanding these differences, it just makes your appreciation for Brazil as a whole so much richer. You move way beyond the stereotypes of samba and football, you know? You see how each region is this unique blend. Indigenous, African, European influences are usually all there, but the way they mixed, the timing, the geography, they create something totally specific.
Yeah.
So looking back at these three, Maranhão, Paraíba, Santa Catarina, what really stands out to you now about those contrasts? How does it make you think about Brazil differently?
It just blows my mind, the sheer variety packed into one country. It really feels like we visited 3 different countries almost.
It can feel that way sometimes.
It makes you realize Brazil isn't just one thing. It's this incredible mosaic, like you said. So many Brazils hidden just under the surface of what we usually see or hear about.
Well put.
And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other countries have these incredibly rich, distinct worlds tucked away inside their borders, just waiting for us to, take a deeper dive?